Hello, everybody, Excellencies, dear colleagues, welcome to the inaugural Symposium of the Community of Academies, the international community, which we have characterized it by the word Koinon, which is a common word from ancient Greek. In view of the protocol recommendations, I have to speak to you in Greek, but it will not be all Greek to you because there is translation, and I hope that you have your translator apparatus with you. Εξοχότατη, κύριε τέος Πρόεδρε της Δημοκρατίας, κύριε τέος Πρωθυπουργέ της Ελλάδος,
of Greece. Your Reverence, representatives of the Archbishopric, Mr. Mayor of Athens, honorable members of the Academy of Athens, honorable members of Academia, members of academies participating in this community of academies, the Koinon. The inaugural symposium of ours actually coincides with the celebration of the World Greek Language Day, a symbolic gesture on the part of UNESCO by means of which the significance of the Greek language is recognized, its significance for global culture and civilization. Today, here in Athens, we are having a meeting of 37 honorary members, academies, plus another 3 academies as observers from the world. Today, we are updating and bringing to date the cross-disciplinary character of the founding Academy of Platos, Plato's Academy or the School of Philosophy. Plato's Academy's ruins are still physically there at the center of Athens, just a few hundred of meters away from the Neoclassical building in which we are meeting today. Today, here, we have a meeting of the spirit of Plato with the spirit of Mozart, of Confucius, and thousands of others, great spirits and intellectuals the world over. Today, we are having a meeting of and a convergence of the foundations of various sciences and philosophy, including philosophy, arts, literature. Today, in the day and age of the ever-growing artificial intelligence, AI, at this meeting of ours, at this symposium, we are going to listen to illustrious scholars and scientists and people from the world of academia, and they're here to provide us with samples and excerpts of today's and future cross-disciplinarity, which is something very important today, since we are faced with a current spiritual crisis, in terms of development. And this is impacting on the whole of mankind. There will be debate and dialogue that through this community of academies will not just be cross-disciplinary, but it will also bring together the 4 corners of the globe. There will be a debate and discussions, dialogue between and amongst the East and the West, the South and the North. And these discussions will be the guiding a beacon to today, to tomorrow, and the future, and certainly will touch on the pan-human values of peace and progress. Let me welcome you at the Temple of the Muses, which is where you will find some of the best examples of neoclassical architecture the world over. This building was designed by an illustrious Danish architect, Theophil Hansen, and his associates. Hansen was the one that also designed the Musikverein building in Vienna, which is exceptional in terms of its acoustics. And you will right away find out that we have great acoustics here and the Academy of Athens. Let me recognize the gracious contribution of the International Mozarteum Foundation from Salzburg. And let me also acknowledge and extend my thanks to the Austrian Embassy and the Austrian Academy of Sciences. Given the aforementioned entities, we will have the great pleasure to listen to music from Mozart's violin, and this will be a first, especially for this sacred place. But Mr. Ulrich Leisinger, Dr. Leisinger, who is the director of Richard of the Mozart Institute of International Mozarteum Foundation, he will be speaking about that. And let me also recognize him and thank him, along with Dr. Costa, who's the General Secretary of Mozarteum Alas. Thank you both, gentlemen. On behalf of the Board of Directors of the International Community of the Academies, the Koinon, let me thank you all and let me wish you a great stay in Athens. May you and we have prolific and constructive discussions in view of the search for the objectives of this new initiative that started from the Academy of Athens and coincided, as the President will tell us, coincided with the celebration of 100 years of seamless operations on the part of the Academy. Thank you for your attention, ladies and gentlemen. At this point, before I give the floor to the President of the Academy of Athens, my dear friend, Mr. Diamantouros, let me add something to the agenda. Please be aware of the fact that there's going to be a family photo taken at 11:15. Everyone, every single attendee, would you be so kind to meet us outside at the propylea of the Academy? So let's have a break at around that time in order for us to also give time to the illustrious Mozart violin to go as it should. Thank you very much. Let me now give the floor to the President of the Academy of Athens.
Good morning, everyone. Distinguished members of the International Community of Academies, honorable colleagues, academics, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a special honor and pleasure for me to welcome you here today during a year with a special symbolism for the Academy of Athens. This year highlights the completion of 100 years since its foundation, a century of contribution to knowledge, science, arts, and public thinking. Since its beginnings, the Academy of Athens has been an institution of reference for the spiritual life of our country, the intellectual life of our country. During the second century today, this mission acquires a clear dimension of extroversion. The Academy is not limited to safeguarding and cultivating knowledge, but it seeks its systematic presence in public space through scientific, cultural, and institutional actions, as well as through collaborations with the state and other institutions. Its aim is to contribute in a documented way to public dialogue, public debate, and operate as a bridge among knowledge, society, and the democratic operation of institutions. A special importance in this context is the international cooperation among academies, the exchange of experiences, the convergence of scientific approaches and debate beyond national and scientific borders can function in a multiplying way, reinforcing scientific progress and mutual understanding at an era of increased uncertainty and complex challenges. The role of academies as carriers of sober thinking and documented discourse is more necessary than ever. In this spirit, I would like to thank you very warmly for your presence and contribution to this important endeavor. I wish that the work starting today will be an opportunity for substantial dialogue and fruitful collaboration worthy of the history, mission, and the responsibility of our academies. And I will add a few words in English, says the speaker.
The date for the Academy of Athens, precisely because it celebrates its 100th anniversary. And we are determined to be able to turn a page, so to speak, and to be able to render the Academy more directly in contact with Greek society, to which it ultimately is answerable. I'm therefore very delighted to welcome you and hope and wish you a very, very successful meeting. Thank you very much.
Our first speaker is His Excellency, the former President of the Hellenic Republic, Mr. Honorary Professor, Mr. Prokopios Pavlopoulos. You have the floor, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, today is a historical day, truly, for the Academy of Athens. It is a day that coincides with the celebration of the World Greek Language Day. This is quite becoming. Today, it's the first day of celebration for the 100 years of the Academy of Athens. It was founded in 1826, and it is the first major event of an important addition to the Academy of Athens, the international community of academies, the creation of which is due to the insistence of our colleague, Mr. Christos Zerefos. The Keynote of Academies is worthy of the history of the Academy of Athens because it highlights, focused on Athens, that science knows no borders, and science is not shaped inseparably. It is a collective effort, and this can be seen here in Athens, in Greece, the land which is the cradle of spirit and education that constitutes the basis of our common civilization. Our common civilization. Because the spirit and education in Greece started to shape science. They were broadcasted, they were disseminated everywhere, and we do not claim the unique character of it, but we claim the motherhood of the beginning of science and promotion of spirit. Ad aeternam. This was and will remain Greek, and it is a major legacy. For us Greeks, this is not just an honor, it is also a major weight, a major responsibility, because we have to write our own page in the history of spirit. And we have the ambition of doing this with the international community of Athens at a time which is a major transition from one era to another as regards spirit and its course. And I'm saying this because it is today, especially today, when we are at a time of quantum computing, quantum computer, we have to wonder what is what belongs to man and what belongs to AI, and to highlight the risks of artificial intelligence. There are expectations that AI will lead to exceeding our limits. There is a fear that AI may replace humans with a terrible impact. We have to see the truth very, very clearly. We have to understand that humans, man, as a being, has a unique characteristic on this planet and cannot be replaced, cannot be substituted by no machine, to put it simply. Because maybe a lot of people have not understood while discussing these issues that humans are not just Homo sapiens, but also Homo sentiens. Humans do not have just intelligence, but also consciousness. And as regards intelligence, indeed, there can be a substitution, to a considerable extent, substitution from AI. The word itself says it. But as regards consciousness, there is no artificial consciousness, and substituting humans as beings is unconceivable. So artificial intelligence is not always something that will help people to fulfill their course, their creation. And this is simple. We see it from the definitions of intelligence and consciousness. What is intelligence? According to the most modern definition, the experts will correct me during this conference, it is a dynamic set of cognitive capacities that gives the humans the opportunity to think, understand, and to form positions, thoughts, views. This can be substituted by the computers with feeding it with the algorithmic programs, especially at the era of quantum computer. This, ladies and gentlemen, can reach limits that we have never imagined. But what? In terms of speed of processing of the information and in terms of volume of information. And this entails a major risk that humans may stop to shape the information and just take it as a given. And this is a major risk. But what is consciousness? This is the great mystery of nature. It is unknown. Consciousness is the creation of our neurons, of our central nervous system, mainly the brain. Millions of years of evolution. Consciousness is the system that allows humans to shape their feelings, their emotions, their beliefs, and to reach from empathy, to go from empathy to self-awareness and self-consciousness, to know that this is it, and on the other hand we have other things, the beings and nature. This, ladies and gentlemen, will never be replaced, at least as far as we know it, because we know very little things about the unconscious and the conscious. The experts will correct me, but I think I'm not wrong. We know very little things about consciousness, very little things about the transition from the unconscious to the conscious. So how can we replace this with a machine? How is it possible to be replaced by the machine? What is that we will give to the AI. We feed the computers, the AI, with things that we know so that they can produce more in speed and volume, as we said. The question is, how is it possible to replace it with something that we do not know then its nature, its root? I don't want to tire you out. In terms of conclusion, I would say that we stay, as regards AI, in the administration of justice.
In STEM, this is not very obvious because you see, when it comes to sciences and such, technology, engineering, mathematics, they count on productive proof and evidence. And it's very important to acknowledge the contribution of AI when it comes to STEM. But when it comes to theoretical sciences, AI is not exactly really giving us much. I mean, meting out justice, the administration of justice, the creation of a lawmaking as such cannot possibly ever be made exclusively by AI. Even if we talk about the strongest and the most powerful AI models, I'm referring to the large, the LLN and the LNN, large language models and neuronic networks, because again, I'm coming back to consciousness. As I said before, this is human. Consciousness is about convictions, beliefs, and sentiments. The conviction of fairness that you shape when you are working in lawmaking, when you have a judge. Judges are creating beliefs and convictions, judicial such things. You do realize that this is not about intelligence, it's about consciousness. How can you ever replace that? Is it possible to have a machine, let me put it in such layman's terms, have a machine proceed with lawmaking from scratch without a human? Is it possible for AI to have a reasoning, a major proposition, a proposal, which applicable law will apply to a case, the major and the minor proposal, and then also deduct things and draw conclusions? Some have tried to use in certain fields in the administration of justice to use AI. They did, for instance, there are the risk scales in the United States of America, meaning they came up with a certain classification of risk in order to detect certain aspects in terms of preventing crime, subjectively and objectively. And in order to avoid recurrence of such crimes, and quite often wherever they used AI in the United States of America, counting on this risk classification for sentencing and avoiding a repetition of crimes, in every single case there was racism. It was monstrous, literally now. This led to fear, and eventually they ruled out the participation of AI in such decisions. You can use AI to help better organize the courts and the tribunals, to facilitate research, to come up with the literature, but you see, humans are irreplaceable in this field. This is, amongst others, one of the messages that the Academy of Athens is sharing with you today. One of the key messages and takeaways is that humans are irreplaceable. And of course, we have a huge share of responsibility to make sure that we have more knowledge, but we have to make also sure that people understand that they are at the heart of education, culture, and spiritual work and production. And it's a good thing, thankfully so. People are at the epicenter, because if our planet and humanity loses its anthropocentric features, then our cultures and civilization will take a different turn, and we never could tell a priori what sort of demise or destruction and disasters we might be faced with then. Thank you very much.
The Academy of Athens will embrace Mozart. How we will do that? We have here Dr. Ulrich Leisinger, as I told you in my opening speech, who is Director of Research at the Mozart Institute, International Mozarteum Foundation. And he will tell us about the famous Mozart violin. De la Costa was the constructor, and the violin, of course, was embraced by Mozart himself. It's an extremely valuable instrument. And in such a room, with so amazing reverberation times, it is the first time internationally that this great violin will play. Another embracement here, we have Ulrich with the well-tempered piano to accompany Mozart's sonata. So, Dr. Ulrich Leisinger, please.
Excellencies of all fields, of all academies, of all over the world. You will forgive me that I do not speak in Greek to you, but I can follow the example of Joseph Haydn. When he left for London, he was asked how he would possibly manage there without speaking the national language, and he said, "Music, my language, is understood all over the world." It is a great honor to speak to the international community, the Keynote of Academies, on behalf of the International Mozarteum Foundation based in Salzburg. Perhaps you feel also honored a little bit by the presence of Mozart's spirit, which is brought to you from Austria by his violin, an instrument built by Pietro Antonio della Costa in 1764 in Treviso in northern Italy. We regard the Mozart instruments. We possess his childhood violin, his Salzburg violin, his Vienna violin from Italy, a clavichord and a fortepiano as the heralds of Mozart, or rather should we say ambassadors, and it's therefore we are particularly proud to see the Austrian ambassador Gerda Vogel among this illustrious crowd. Mozart, you may have heard this, was regarded by Joseph Haydn, whom I mentioned before, as the greatest composer, as he confessed with God as his witness to Leopold Mozart, Mozart's father, when Leopold was in Vienna in 1785. He said, "Mozart is the greatest composer whom I know by name and by person, because he has taste and moreover the most profound knowledge of the science of composition." Mozart himself was also a member of academies. He was fond of many things, including mathematics, but he was a member of two learned societies of music, the Accademia Filarmonica di Bologna and the Accademia Filarmonica di Verona. Mozart was a networker, and so he would probably have liked the idea of a community of academies. And the Mozart violin has a special story. Mozart wrote only two compositions on topic from ancient Greek, namely Apollo and Hyacinthos, a short musical drama for Salzburg, not Academy in those days, Salzburg University, and the great serious opera on Idomeneus, the king of Crete, in 1780. This relates us to the instrument because he left Salzburg in the fall of 1780 to go to Munich to do the premiere performances of the opera from the keyboard. And he did not take his violin with him, so the Salzburg violin stayed with the family in Salzburg. He was called then by the Archbishop of Salzburg, who was on a state visit in Vienna on the shortest possible way to Vienna, so he did not go through Salzburg, but traveled there directly. And when he decided to stay in Vienna forever, because he talked about the land of the pianoforte, or actually he thought it would be the paradise of fortepiano playing and opera, he needed a new instrument, and this is the instrument that we have with us today. It is thanks to the collaboration of the Mozarteum Hellas and the International Mozarteum Foundation that you can now listen to Mozart's music on his own instrument. The Rondo in C major, K373 from 1781, is brought to life by Nina Patrikidou at the violin, accompanied by Evgenia Votanopoulou, and welcome here in Salzburg, here in Athens, to Mozart's own instrument.
Thank you so much for such a lovely event that you offered to us, Ulrich. And indeed, as you know, most people know the Stradivari. And of course, the Stradivaris came from the forest of Cremona. And you mentioned Cremona's Academy and the link to Mozart. So you may well find out if the La Costa violin came also from Cremona. And the reason, the environmental reason why that forest produced such a wonderful wood for instruments was the Little Ice Age. Because the Little Ice Age, it was a period of very cold weather, lasted for 3 centuries and more, and Cremona was one of the most hit places on earth by that. So the wood that was produced there provided us with such wonderful instruments. Thank you so much.